Welcome to the Safety Net with Kendell Lenice. This is a talk show where you can feel safe to share your truth. After all, we've all been through something. We all have a story to tell. Our testimonies are never for us. They're to help and inspire others to think bigger, do better, to become wiser. Through our stories and testimonies, we can help each other heal, grow, and learn from our past mistakes in order to have a brighter and better future. It's not what you've been through, it's what you've grown through. This is the Safety Net. I got you. Our live show starts now. The Safety Net with Kendell Lenice. This is a talk show where you can feel free to share your truth. So today we're talking about childhood abuse. We're talking about child abuse and how children see a tough time. And it's up to the parents of this generation, of the community, to protect our children. So many people go through so many different things as children, and they don't realize that it's still affecting them as adults. And we're blaming the children oftentimes for how they're acting and their behavior and what they're doing in their lives, when we should hold the adults that were responsible for the children to bat. That's who we need to hold. So our guest today will be talking about her life as a child, how she felt neglected and how she was abused. I think it's very important to support the kids and believe the kids. So you're going to listen to her story and you're going to be inspired. Stay tuned. Hi everybody, welcome to the Safety Net with Kendell Lenice. I am pleased to have Tracey Skyles here with me today. This is a talk show where you can come and share your truth. It's a safe space, hint the safety net. So this conversation today, you need a safety net. You need a safe place to land because you're having difficulties in your life from the issues that happen in childhood. Right. So we want to talk about children and the importance of really nurturing your children, giving them words of affirmation, protecting your children, honoring your children, and not neglecting your children. Because I always say children see a rough time sometimes in households. And some of you might be watching saying, well, what do you mean? I take care of my kids. I'm around my kids all the time. Nothing can happen to my kids. And what we don't know is we hurt and harm our children even when we don't. And even when we recognize we do, we tend to ignore it because no one else needs to know that. Let's keep the secrets. Yep. So today we're talking about secrets, and we're talking about how secrets hurt people. And we're only sick as our secrets. So I wanted to talk to you about, first of all, I want to welcome you. Thank you for being willing to be courageous enough to share your story, to share your truth, because I know that that's not always easy. No. But what happens is it helps other people heal and grow. So you being courageous will allow somebody else to be courageous. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah. So tell me why it was important for you to tell your story, and why did you say that this came at a perfect time?
It came at a perfect time because I am in a place now where I forgive everything. I think it's better to do it now because versus when I was very angry and sad and depressed about it, because I want to be able to tell my story, tell my truth, but have some dignity and respect for not only for myself but others that's involved. Right. Yeah, and just to heal from it, because that's at the end of the day, that's really what I want to do.
Right, because you want to live the best life that you can possibly live, right? And it's interesting because when we share our stories, they're connected to other people's stories. Absolutely. And sometimes we protect them more than we want to heal us. Right. And did you ever feel that way? Because I know you said you don't want to compromise somebody else. So how freeing is it to you that you no longer, not necessarily not want to protect them, but you're caring about you a lot more?
I'm sorry, it's the question.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay. So you're caring about yourself enough
to try to heal yourself, opposed to what others might think or protecting someone else. You get what I'm saying? So it's not about protecting someone else as much as it is for healing yourself.
Yeah, well, I just felt like I needed to do this for me so that I could be free, because for a long time I just felt like I was in bondage and just not being able to express myself because I didn't want to make somebody else look bad.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I said now was a good time to do it, because I'm no longer holding any grudges or any, ill feelings towards anyone. So I can be able to tell my story truthfully without, coming from an angry place.
Yeah.
You know what I
So
mean?
let's talk. A lot of people are probably like, well, what is her story? What happened? And we can go as far as you want to go. We can start where you want to start. I know that you were one of my life coaching clients. You wanted to write a book. And we're working on that to try to help you get your story out there. Right. So this is the prelude to that.
Right.
Right, because when you read your book, or when you write your book, we're going to claim it's going to be a bestseller.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Right. So this is like the start of that.
Yeah.
So I want to first thank you for trusting me with your story.
Oh, yeah.
So let's start from the beginning. And I know we broke it down by age. So let's just start where you want in your childhood, about some of the things that happened to you.
Well, I would just start from, I guess, by the ages as early as I can remember. So about maybe 3, 4. I was, my mom and my dad, they both were, well, my mom was an alcoholic, my dad was a drug addict. So I was basically just left alone with, a lot of people that I didn't know. And, things happened as far as like molestation and all that stuff. And I just basically was abandoned and neglected a lot. And I was abused in every way abuse comes in at the hands of family members. And yeah, it was rough, and that lasted for a very long time.
So were you abused by the men in your family, or were there women also?
Both.
So sexually abused, physically abused, mentally abused, emotionally abused, by people who are supposed to love you and supposed to protect you.
Right.
And that's really the key. And as I talked about this earlier, it's like we have to protect our children. And sometimes people do leave them in the hands of people that have no business being around children, let alone your children. And that's a problem in a lot of communities where it's substance abuse. You so out of it, you don't even know where your children are.
Right.
So what is your earliest recollection of what happened? Like, how old were you when you knew something wasn't right, or you felt violated or hurt by someone that was supposed to love you?
I would say about 6, maybe 6 or 7.
Right. And what happened?
Just being touched. It was mostly like touching, inappropriately touched, by family members. And
adults?
No, most of them were, around my age, or a little bit older.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I was 14 that I was actually like, my virginity was taken away from me, and I was definitely violated by a family member.
But so, and that, and that hurts my heart, as a parent. You were a virgin until someone violated you. And it was a family member. And typically when we are violated, it is by the closest people to us. So how has that shown up in your world today? Like, is that something, have you confronted the person? Have you forgiven the person? When was the first time you admitted it out loud that you were violated? Well,
actually, when it actually happened, I made a phone call and I told a friend of mine, and it actually got back to my mom, and nobody believed me, pretty much. So I never talked about it again.
And that always boils me right there. When a child is courageous enough to come to an adult, come to their parent, and then they say, I don't believe you. It's not true. Like, how does that make you feel? How did that make you feel? Like, as a child, that you're saying, you know what? I know it's wrong. Because first of all, a lot of people don't even say,
Yeah.
tell anybody.
Right.
So for you to be brave enough as a child to tell someone, for them to just say, it didn't happen.
Right. So it just made me feel like that I didn't matter. Like, not my voice, I didn't have a voice, my voice didn't matter, that I didn't matter. So I never talked about it again until like years later. But I have forgiven him. I haven't confronted him about it, but...
So he's still around?
Oh, yeah, he's still around, and he's still on the prowl. Preying on, younger generations of our family.
So let's talk about that. I remember when I was coaching you and we were trying to prepare you for your book and then the things that you wanted to talk about. And I went through the chapters, okay, at this age, and I remember chronologically going through the ages. And I remember you saying that this person who nobody believed is still doing that to children in your family today.
Yeah, so now that it's like out there, and it had a lot to do with me because when I heard about it, I was like, that's it. I'm letting everything out the bed. And because it got back to me, the things that he was doing, but nobody was like talking about it. I'm like, no, I'm going to talk about it, and we're going to get it out there. So now he's like banned from the family. Like, nobody wants him around. Nobody wants to be around him. But he still haven't like suffered any consequences of
like legally.
Right.
Yeah, other than the family just kind of shunning him and not really doing anything about it. And a lot of families, I don't understand why we protect the people who are doing us wrong. It's almost a code, like, okay, we're going to keep this in the family. We know it's wrong, but we're not going to allow them to pay for it and to have consequences. Why do you think that is?
I guess because, they don't want to look bad, to keep the image up, or, afraid of what people might say. Stuff like that. That's the only thing I can think of.
Right, but to me, when it comes to children, all bets are off.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I'm putting you under the jail. I'm doing what I got to do, especially if you violated mine and I know it.
And that's what happened to my daughter. Her uncle violated my daughter, and I did everything that I could to...
Go ahead.
To get her due justice, but it didn't happen.
So, not only were you violated sexually, your daughter, at how old?
She was 6.
And she was violated by her uncle. Your brother?
No, on her father's side.
So, did her father know about that?
Yeah.
And that's the father's daughter. What happened with that?
Nothing.
You gotta be kidding me. So, the father's brother touched his daughter, biological daughter, birth, same genes.
Yeah.
And he said nothing?
I mean, as far as I know.
Did he believe it?
I'm not sure. I mean, he believed it, but,
See, that's the problem, people. We got to start exposing these people. We got to start believing these children. And I've heard before where people say, well, she lies, talking about the children, or she always makes up stories, or he made up this story. But let's just say it's a 50-50 chance if they made it up or if they're telling the truth, right?
Right.
Take that chance and believe that they're telling the truth. Investigate.
Right.
Call the authorities. Ask questions. Take them, to the doctor, because you can tell if a child was violated in that manner, especially at a young age.
Yeah.
So, as a mother, how does that make you feel that, that cycle continues?
And that's exactly why I'm here now and why I'm doing what I'm doing, because it has to stop. It has to stop. I have to break that cycle.
I'm proud of you for wanting to break that cycle. Is it easy for you to talk about? I know you're talking about it now, but is that something that came easy to you, or is it very difficult for you to talk about this?
It is, but it has to be done. It's very necessary to do so.
So with your book and and with your story and your message, because you can really go around speaking to people, that's really what this show is about. You're speaking to people now, somebody home sitting there and they've been violated, they've been sexually assaulted or abused or neglected, and they think that was just their life, they need to move on.
Right.
What would you tell that person that's like, well, that was then, this is now, don't worry about that? I'm moving on, or it doesn't matter now, what would you tell that person?
No, I would definitely say, like, that's not the way to go about it, because that's what I've done all my whole life up until now.
You done what?
You know, it's over. I'm still here. I'm alive. You know, it's no big deal, because that's how it was presented to me when I did speak up about it. Oh, get over it. So, but it still affected me though.
How
still
so?
To this day,
How
because
so?
I'm not. It affects my relationships.
Mm-hmm.
It affects my relationship with my children too, because it's very difficult for me to have these conversations with them, but I have to. I do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And
about if somebody touches you.
Oh yeah, about if somebody touches you, or just about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because my mom didn't talk to me about nothing. Like, she didn't teach me anything about life, about how to be a woman or anything like that. But I talk to my children all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult.
Because you got to check in.
Right. I check in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult, but I still do it anyway, because it has to be done. Yeah.
So, and I commend you for that. And I think I know a lot of people need to check on their kids, see about their kids, see what's going on, see what's wrong. Just find out what's happening. Because as a parent, we can't possibly know everything.
No.
But once we do know, we're obligated to take action and to try to protect our children. Why do you think that some parents out there don't protect these babies?
The only thing I can come up with is that they can't give what they don't have. I know my mom, she had it rough when she was coming up. She didn't have anybody to talk to her, or, you know, protect her, or do all the things that a mother should do. She didn't have that. So that's what made me forgive her, because she just didn't have it. She didn't know. Yeah, she didn't know, and she did the best she could. She was a single mom with 3 children, and she had a lot of issues, a lot of childhood trauma and everything that she was going through. So it's impossible to be a good mother when you a single mother and you have all these issues going on. You know what I mean? And that's what made me forgive her, because, you know, I've done some things that I'm not proud of as a parent, but I think about it like,
because it's not a perfect, it's just not, it's no perfection in parenting. You're learning.
So I feel like if I, you know, want to pass, why don't she get one?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what made me forgive her, and just, you know, try to heal and just move on from it.
And now that you're an adult, and you said when you did tell your mom that this was happening to you, or this had happened to you, and she didn't believe you, as an adult, have you guys had that conversation?
Well, she's deceased now. Okay. Yeah, she passed in 2010.
I'm sorry, and I was going to ask you that. I'm sorry about that. Before she passed, were you able to talk about this?
No. We didn't talk about it ever since that day I told her about it.
Wow. So you kind of made peace, and you've forgiven her. Did you forgive her after she passed away, or did you forgive her while she was still here? Did she know that she... Okay, so you knew that harboring that would only hurt you because she's gone.
Right.
And you're still here, and you still have to live. You still have to raise your children. You still have to go on with your life.
Right.
You know, so... In other ways, I know you said it shows up in your children. By how you're raising your children, it shows up. In any other situations as far as relationships, how you deal with strangers, with people, how is it showing up now? Because that's what people have to understand. If we don't resolve the issues of our past, then they'll show up in our futures, and they'll continue to show up until we say, you know what, enough is enough. Let me go get some help. Let me talk to someone. Let me admit to myself that this is not right. I'm doing this. I shouldn't be doing this, or I shouldn't think like this, or I shouldn't feel like this, because it's not what's happening now.
Right.
It's what happened then, and I'm reacting now. What are some of the ways?
Well, it's hard for me to form relationships with just people, period. And it's hard for me to trust people, and it's even hard for me to just make friends or get close to people, because by dealing with neglect, it's like I don't want people to get too close or too attached to me, and I don't want to get too close or too attached to anyone else, because, you know, that fear of abandonment and rejection. So it definitely shows up in my relationships, and you know, I just still have these walls built up. And I don't want to have the walls anymore.
Right. So no more walls. No more. You tearing the walls down.
And that's, you know, what I'm trying to do.
So you're trying to tear the walls down. And what do you see on the other, once that wall is down and you tear that wall down, and on the other side of that, like what changes do you see occurring in your life just by being free of your past?
Well, I'm a firm believer in like you attract what you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I've definitely been like attracting situations in my life that was just not in my favor. Mm-hmm. And I know it has a lot to do with my past and how it has shaped and molded me.
Usually when people say situations, they mean relationships. Yeah. That's what I know. That's what I have come to know as a life coach, okay? Yes. When they say situations, they mean relationships, intimate relationships.
Yeah.
So what have you seen showing up in your intimate relationships, or trying to even establish a relationship?
Well, I'm going to go off the last relationship that I just had. He definitely said I was guarded. And
facts.
Facts. But I just think that I think about it like this: everybody's not worth emotionally invested in, and he was just one of those people.
Say that again.
Everyone is not worth emotionally investing in, and it was just so hard for me to be vulnerable with him because he had his issues too. So.
Everybody does.
Yeah, everybody does. Yep. But
you gotta get the issues that work for you that meet within your issues, because you can't have the same issues. Right. So it's almost like a puzzle. Your issue gotta fit into my issue.
That's the thing. It's like we were kind of similar. He was like a mirror to me. Yeah. He was reflecting me back to me. Yeah. And you see how easy it is for me to have a conversation with. He don't even know me, and we were dating for a year.
Wow.
So it's like it depends on who the person is. Like it can flow. We can have conversations, but with him, I couldn't.
Was it something he was doing or not doing, or was it just you being guarded? Because sometimes people will give you the space to be you and to share you, and then some people you already know instantly, I can't. Or was it just you all the way that you were just guarded?
It was a little bit of both. Yeah, definitely I was guarded. But, he was doing things that kept that guard up. So it's like he'll be consistent one moment and he won't be consistent. So it's like I can't put my trust in it. So I can't be vulnerable with you.
See, but that's a thing. And I'm glad that you brought that up. I want to talk about consistency because I'm big on consistency. Too. And I've had conversations with other people, and they're big on consistency. And that's the thing. When you have somebody that's a guarded person, and you have somebody that's scared to be vulnerable, and you have somebody that has been through a lot.
Yes.
If you're not consistent with that person, and they're not consistent with you, that guard will.
He shut me
down. It will come out right. It will.
Mm-hmm.
You will be shut down, and that's the thing that people don't realize. That's why in relationships you got to have some type of balance.
Right.
That person, and I think it's important to share some of the things that you've been through. A lot of people in relationships will not share what they've been through, and it's doing a disservice to the relationship.
Absolutely.
Because everybody, it's like I wish people would be like, okay, I meet you, you meet me, boy meets girl. Okay, let's just take about an hour and talk about the top 5 things that happened to me or that went wrong.
Yeah.
That way we can see, we can heal, we release it, because sometimes we hide it. And when we hide it, it's almost like a lingering thing.
Yeah.
Like, should I not?
And that's how it was throughout the whole relationship. And it was like, I just couldn't bring myself to tell him, those things about my past and everything, because for one, he was just very judgmental, and I didn't know how it was going to be received. So that's one of the reasons why I held back on that, but it definitely was affecting our relationship.
Because you wanted to share, but he needed to give you a safety net and a soft place to land.
Right.
But he didn't.
Right.
And you didn't, because you might meet somebody tomorrow and it just, you feel that connection and you share everything.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that you're trying to free yourself. I'm glad that you're trying to be better.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you want to help other people. Like, what made you decide? I know it wasn't easy for you to talk about it, and you're just starting to talk about it. like, is it still, and I asked you something like this earlier, but is it difficult for you to just free yourself of what happened? Not free the other people and forgive the other people, but forgive yourself and free yourself. Is it getting easier to do that?
It's getting easier to do it, yeah. It's definitely getting easier, but it was hard. Because, you know, I never had conversations about it with, it's only a few people that really knows my story. But just having a conversation, period, like, I was so, like, back in my teenage years, very, like, withdrawn and, you know, depressed and sad and angry, and just, I wouldn't talk to really anybody.
Because you had nowhere to put your feelings.
Right. Yeah.
You had no, if the closest person, if the person that gave birth to you didn't believe you, then that would instantly make a child angry. It's like, she didn't even believe me, you know, and that's hurt.
Yeah.
That's anger, that's sadness, like you said, depressed, you know, trying to figure out, like,
yeah,
you know.
The depression was really, really bad. Like, I can remember when I was in middle school, like, I could hear, like, all the other kids outside playing, but I would take, like, a black sheet or something and put it over the window because I just didn't even want to see the day of light. I just wanted to be in the room, just go to sleep. Like, I'm just sleep it away.
Yeah. And then you woke up and you still had the same issue. And then you said, okay, well, maybe. But people live years like that.
Oh,
people live years like that, like waking up, you know, because people don't know where to put their feelings. They don't know how to digest what's happened to them. They don't know how to wrap their heads around that, because you know what? Everybody thinks nobody else been through nothing, because everybody is tight-lipped. They don't want to be judged. They're afraid of what this person might say. So nobody is sharing their stories. That's why it's so important for me to do this show and to really do the work that I do, to get people to see that we're more alike than different.
Right. That's true.
Now, with you being sexually assaulted as a child, did that make you promiscuous in any way? Or did that make you the total opposite?
I was kind of like the opposite. I was like, well, since I'm old enough now to make my own decisions, so I'm going to decide who I, you know, give myself to or not. But my mom had me conditioned to, like, just not mess with men, period. Just get money and don't even involve yourself with these men or give them your heart, because if you do, then they're only going to hurt you.
See, and that's passed down.
Yeah.
And that's a cycle.
Yeah.
That's a cycle of abuse. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I'm sure your mom was abused.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because that sounds like an abused woman. That sounds like a scorned woman,
and
a hurt
woman.
woman.
That's what I said. She was a woman scorned. So
she
was passing that down to me, like, you know, don't give your heart away and don't love nobody, don't trust nobody. Just get your money and, you know, don't worry about no relationship or no man or nothing like that.
And we got to stop doing that. We got to stop doing that with our children. It's important, because this is why, and even in the black community, nobody wants to get help. Well, just take it to church. Oh, I don't trust the church because somebody touched me at church. So I don't trust the church. Therapy is for white people. I've heard black people say that. Oh, therapy doesn't do anything. I'm just going to deal with it on my own. There are a lot of issues that you cannot deal with on your own. You have to seek help, because if not, it'll pass down from generation to generation to generation, because a person that was abused and hurt, they're raising you.
Absolutely.
So they're putting all their stuff on you. And then now, if you didn't stop it, you would put it on your daughter. Babies, so on your children. So I'm glad that you recognized that.
Yeah.
At what point did you recognize that?
That I needed to break this cycle?
That you, like, did you find yourself being your mother and say,
I did. Yeah. That's what made me break the cycle, because I was like, I'm starting to become my mother. Yeah.
Because you're acting as what you know. You're acting out what you've seen. And that's where the cycles continue. And continue and continue and continue. If you look at some families, there's abuse all the way back in each generation. So it's up to us to seek the knowledge, to try to get help for ourselves, to study, to read, to find out what we need to do to break that cycle in our family. Because sometimes that's like demonic.
It is.
It goes from one to the next to the next to the next. And then we tell ourselves, well, that's just the cycle. That's how it's supposed to be. And it's almost like, it's so weird because in some families it's almost like a rite of passage. Okay, well, it happened to me too. Get over it. You know, get yourself a man or go get the money and do what you do. It happened. It's we're over it. And it's almost like it's brushed off.
Yeah.
So what would be the one thing that you would tell somebody that's afraid to tell somebody that something happened, like their child, and what would you tell that? Like, what would you tell that person?
I would definitely tell them you have to talk about it, because if you don't, it's going to eat at you. It's not going to go away. It's going to continue. It's going to follow you everywhere you go.
And it's going to grow up with you.
And it's going to grow up with you, absolutely. And then when you have children, then it's going to get on them too. And that's what made me want to get it together.
Wow.
And change it, yeah.
So as far as neglect, do you have I know we talked about like the attachment issues. Either when you start getting close to someone, you either attach yourself or you don't.
I'm the
altogether.
complete opposite. I back off.
So when you find yourself becoming close, like you said earlier, you'll just end it. Will you end a relationship if it's getting too close?
Well, I'm a lot better than I used to be.
Because you were cutting them off?
Oh, man, without a word. And then I will bump into them later.
Like, where's Tracey?
They're like, why you do me like that? And I'm like, what? And they were like, why you just cut me off like that? You didn't call me. You didn't say nothing. Give me a word or nothing. Now, me, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, my mother did that to me, so what's the big deal? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
You almost have the hurt, I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, that I used to do that back in the day. Because I absolutely didn't think nothing was wrong with that. I didn't, because that's just what happened to me. And I always felt like if my own mother didn't want me, then who else going to want me?
Right.
So, yeah, I stopped doing that because I just realized that's just wrong.
Yeah.
But now I just like really like take my time. Like I drag my feet.
You slow walking. Yeah,
just to make sure.
Right. Do you have issues with self-esteem?
I used to, but now no.
So you feel beautiful? You feel sexy?
Yes, I do.
You feel smart? You feel what else? What else you feeling? What else you feeling, Tracey?
Phenomenal.
All right, because you said yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
So you
finally.
And finally, so what was that process like?
Well, I just got to a point where I stopped looking for like validation from people.
Validation is for parking, y'all.
Yep.
That's period. That's it. You don't need validation from anyone else other than the parking attendant.
That's right. So I don't look for validation anymore. I'm good. I know I'm good.
Yeah. And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to thank you for coming on, sharing your truth. I'm so excited about the book. You know, maybe I'll be the one publishing it.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
You know, definitely, because I think it's important to get our stories all out. And as I said earlier, we're as sick as our secrets.
Right.
The minute we begin to reveal and shed what has happened to us in our past, because everyone is not as significant as others, or, you know, so what people say. But any trauma in your childhood, even if you don't know you had trauma, even if you don't know that you've been through stuff, even if you suppress things, and it's still going to show up.
That's what I did for a long time. I suppressed everything. Like, I've been through so many things as a child, and it's like I didn't have time to cry about it. I just was in survival mode. Like, okay, I need to process what's going on, and then I need to figure it out.
Right.
And it's like that still shows up into my life this day, because it's like I'm still in like survival mode, and I'm still trying to figure things out, and it's like I'm trying to break that cycle too.
So do you ever take time to breathe? She just did. All right, come on. She just did. All right, this was the first time she's breathed in about 6 months.
Right.
So, but you are, so I just want to commend you for stopping the cycle once again, and for really believing your daughter, believing your children. Because I think it's important to do that, because kids go through a lot and nobody knows. So it's up for us to really check in with our children, to make sure they're good, to make sure they're okay, because you don't want them to grow up and say, my mommy or my daddy didn't protect me.
Absolutely.
You know, and not know, because when you mess with children, you're a special kind of person.
Oh, yeah.
When you harm children, you're a special type of person to harm children. But that's that. I hate talking about the cycles, but that's that cycle again, because the person that hurt you was probably hurt.
The guy that hurt me, my family member, he was molested. Yep. So when I heard that, when they told me, another family member told me that he was molested by another one of our family members, right away I was like, oh, I can believe it. I believe it.
Because he did
it to me.
Yeah.
That's exactly what came out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, now I get it. Now I see why he does what he do, because it happened to him too.
Yeah. And if you're eating a piece of chicken and you keep telling yourself it's steak, you're going to begin to believe that it's steak. So when you start telling yourself that there's nothing wrong with that, oh, I'm okay. There's nothing wrong with what I did if you're doing somebody wrong, or there's nothing wrong with what they did when they did you wrong. You start to believe that until it pops up in your life, and it pops up in a way where you don't even recognize yourself. Right. And that's the moment that you guys, you need to get help. Tracey, I thank you so much. I'm going to have you come back.
I will.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me on the safety net. Did you feel safe?
I did.
Okay, and she shared with me, y'all. She said she don't share.
No,
but thank you so much. And just tell the audience, just give them a little bit of hope if they're dealing with what you've dealt with. And then we'll close there.
Yeah, so I just basically want to tell you guys that, God is good, first of all, and you are never alone. And if you're having any issues from your childhood or anything, it's best to talk about it, to get it out, because if you don't, it will eat you alive. It will. And, you need to be free. You need to heal from it. And you owe it to yourself.
Boom, here we have it, the Safety Net with Kendell Lenice. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next time, God bless. Hey, this is Kendell Lenice, and guess what time it is? It is time for the Coach's Corner. That's right, I'm a transformational life coach and speaker, as you guys know, and I'm going to do a little life coaching for you pertaining to this week's topic, which is child abuse. If you look at child abuse, you can see a lot in just child abuse. There are different type of abuses, as you know. Just by living on this earth, you know. And some of you have been abused as children, but you don't know how to own it. You don't know how to talk about it. You don't know how to admit it to yourself that some horrible things happened to you as a child. But if I were coaching you, I would tell you first and foremost, it was not your fault. You did not deserve it. So stop walking around acting as if you deserved it. You're not tainted. There's nothing wrong with you. You have to begin to heal. And the first step in healing is forgiving yourself. And that might sound crazy to some, like, why should I forgive myself for what someone else has done to me? But typically, when someone else has violated, neglected, abused, they tend to blame themselves. Well, what's wrong with me? Or what did I do? Did I ask for that? And I'm here to tell you, you didn't ask for any of it. You were a child, and someone should have protected you. So I really advise you to see a life coach, a therapist, get some help. That is my coaching for you today. Get some help. Learn how to love yourself again. Learn how to be okay with not being okay. Learn how to forgive yourself and to forgive others. And sometimes when we talk about forgiveness, we think that means forgetting. No, in order to move and grow and, get yourself unstuck from your patterns, you have to learn to let go. Realize that it was not your fault, it was not your responsibility, and forgive yourself from your past. That's how you will begin to grow. That's how you will heal, and that's how you'll be able to distinctively tell the past from the present and then from the future. But you don't want it to be one and the same. You don't want to carry your hurt from your childhood over to your adulthood and then you begin to hurt someone because you're still hurt. So we want to get that in check. And then when we get that in check, you can live an abundant life and you can live the life that you want to live. This is the Coach's Corner. Thank you so much for joining me on the Safety Net with Kendell Lenice. You guys know this is a talk show where you can feel safe to share your truth. Our truth helps other people heal and grow. I know you want to be a part of that. So if you want to be a guest on this show, email me at kendellenice@gmail.com. And I will sit you right here in this very seat and we will talk about your truth. Thank you so much for tuning in.
The one who knows my heart, I knew it from the start. When I'm lost, you're my tour guide, the only thing that's right. My candle in the dark, the one who lights the spark. You never keep the score, that's why I wanna praise you more. Why I stand here and say, you, I'm not alone. With you I have a home. When I'm hurt, you stop the pain.